Out of all of these celebrities, who do you think is the biggest VR enthusiast? There are a lot of famous, or should I say semi-famous people like Paris Hilton who took advantage of the word metaverse to scam people.
So you drew a picture of a cat, a doodle.
Yes.
And what did it sell for?
17,000.
Stop it. Get some help.
Or Andrew Yang, who held a press conference in some crappy flat screen game he referred to as the metaverse to try and appear young and cool. But this list only includes true VR enthusiasts like the first name on our list, Elijah Wood, or as I know him best, Frodo Baggins.
The thing about VR is that you can place people in an environment. Similar tools that one has in film, sound design, music, the lack thereof. These are all things that you can use in VR as well to elicit an emotional response, but you're in it. I just think that's so interesting.
Now, Elijah has spoken extensively about his love for VR and the benefits he sees in this immersive medium, so it makes sense he would come out with his own VR game, a psychological thriller called Transference. Transference was built by Elijah's company SpectraVision, who usually specializes in movies, but after a spontaneous meeting at E3 with Ubisoft, Transference was born. It's described as an escape room set in a deranged mind, and funny enough, the next person on our list has a deranged mind as well. Co-creator of Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland. Not only has Roiland come out with 3 VR titles of his own, but he's also voiced characters in The Lab, Hover Junkers, and Job Simulator.
I thought, calibration would take a little longer than that.
A Redditor even claimed to have met him in VR chat, stating, "I have him on my friends list, gave him a tour of my Disney World. He was pretty impressed, but the best part was that he had a Rick avatar and would often talk in character." On top of that, Roiland has tweeted stuff like VR is incredible or VR chat is insane numerous times. The former chief creative officer at VRChat personally knows both Justin Roiland as well as the next person on our list, Joel Zimmerman. You might know him better as Deadmau5. Together, he and Roiland made a New Year's Eve countdown a few years back that was created in VRChat.
I guess it's New Year's. Great.
He's known for streaming VR gameplay, and he even made his own VR game in partnership with Absolute Vodka, which is kind of like a VR chat world for Deadmau5 fans. It's a terrible game that no one liked, but even so, I think it's a great way to show his enthusiasm for the industry. If you didn't think that was enough to earn him a spot on today's list, he also had one of his music videos completely painted and animated in the VR app Quill, something most people didn't even realize was possible. While on the subject of things people didn't realize are possible, being a VR nerd as big as Neil Patrick Harris is probably pretty high up on that list. Back in 2018 on The Late Late Show with James Corden, Neil discussed his VR obsession, mentioning games like Abduction and Invisible Hours, and talking about how immersive they are, saying stuff like, you would be surprised because you put them on and then before you know it, 5 hours have passed.
Neil, like our very own Reggie Watts, you are obsessed with virtual reality. What games do you play?
As a big fan of the VR game Myst, he also made sure to promote the Kickstarter for Firmament, a VR game by the same development studio. In a New York Magazine article, he listed the MetaQuest 2 as one of his essentials, mentioning how incredible he thought it was and how he was surprised it didn't cost $1,000. The next name on our list, Jon Favreau, has a true appreciation for VR as well. While working on The Lion King, him and his team built a custom game engine that allowed them to do all of their work inside VR headsets. When I say all of their work, it's not an exaggeration either. Their camera, lights, dollies, literally everything they needed was digitized and then brought into VR. This allowed his team to shoot the movie as if it was a live action film, and the end result was game changing.
We decided to try to build a software suite that was essentially a multiplayer VR filmmaking game.
Favreau also made his own VR game called Gnomes and Goblins, a fantasy adventure puzzle game that makes players feel like they're living the life of a Keebler elf. He's not the only director using VR though. Steven Spielberg used the HTC Vive to direct Ready Player One, and Gareth Edwards used the HTC Vive to direct parts of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Bjork released a whole album in VR, Oprah, John Legend, and a bunch of other celebrities released a free VR movie, Adam Savage had his own VR TV show, and Joe Rogan has talked about VR more times than I could count.
You know what Sandbox is? You ever do Sandbox?
Oh, this is
dude, it's the dopest. Sandbox, you're in a warehouse.
Okay.
I love it.
However, Terry Crews has to be the biggest VR enthusiast in all of Hollywood, and he has been one for a very long time. Now, most people would be surprised to find out that the number of times he's talked about VR, made a video of himself playing VR, or just done anything with VR is actually higher than the amount of movies on his IMDb page. When watching videos of him playing VR, you could see the love he has for the technology is very genuine. He's also super into PC gaming and building gaming PCs.
I'm Terry Crews, and I'm Team PC Master Race.
He's posted videos with his son, excited after picking up a new VR headset. He has family game nights that are based around the PlayStation VR. He came out with his own VR exercise app, and he even got a 360 camera to record his home movies in VR. Knowing all that, it's no wonder he's at the top of today's list.